Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the case of Rachel Matthews.
Okay.
Now, Rachel was a young woman who vanished from her small town back in 2002. And we've talked a little bit about small towns before on the show, right?
Yeah.
And you know, those small towns, they can sometimes hold secrets that are just as deep and dark as any big city.
Yeah.
And this case, I think, is a pretty chilling example of how obsession, you know, can turn deadly.
It is. It's and it's one of those cases where it doesn't start with, you know, like a dramatic crime scene or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just this quiet disappearance that really gets under your skin.
Yeah.
Rachel just vanished.
Right.
No signs of a struggle, no forced entry at her home. Her car was left at the diner where she worked.
Oh, wow.
So right away you have all these questions.
Yeah, like what happened?
And very few answers.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of mystery that just really grabs you and won't let go.
Yeah. And I think it makes you think too, you know, even if you don't live in a small town, it makes you think about how vulnerable we all are, right? Like even in places that we consider safe.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like the fear that must have been going through that community?
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone knows Rachel. They're all searching for clues.
It's the kind of thing that just rocks a small town to its core.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
Everyone's on edge. Everyone's looking over their shoulder.
Right.
Because if it could happen to Rachel, it could happen to anyone.
Right. And then they find a clue.
Yeah.
Right. And it's almost too chilling to believe.
It is.
It's her cell phone.
Right. They find Rachel's abandoned cell phone.
Right.
But it's not just the phone itself. It's a text message that was sent from it just hours before she vanished.
Okay. What did it say?
The message read, "I'm not safe here. They're watching me."
Okay, so that changes everything, right?
Right.
It's not just a missing person.
Right.
Now it feels like there's danger.
Absolutely.
Like a stalker.
It introduces this whole other element to the case.
Right.
You know, suddenly you have this unknown figure, this stalker lurking in the shadows.
Right.
And that text message wasn't an isolated incident.
Really?
Yeah, the investigation uncovered weeks of anonymous messages sent to Rachel.
Oh, wow.
Short, cryptic texts.
Like what?
Just things like, "I'm watching you."
Okay. Yeah, I mean, anyone who's ever, you know, followed true crime,
Right.
you know, knows that's like classic stalker behavior.
Oh, yeah, it's textbook.
Right. It's like they want to instill fear and control.
Exactly. They want the victim to know that they're always being watched.
Yeah.
That they're never truly alone.
Right.
But what makes this case so unique, I think, is how deeply this stalker had woven himself into Rachel's life.
You're talking about Thomas Caldwell, right?
I am.
He was a regular at the diner.
Yep. Seemingly harmless guy.
Right. Why?
Just blended into the background.
But maybe a little off.
Yeah, there was always something a little bit strange about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's unsettling to think that someone you see every day, right, could be capable of something so dark.
It really is. Yeah. It makes you question who you can trust.
Right.
Like you said, even the people you think you know can surprise you.
Exactly.
And that's part of what makes this case so compelling, you know, this duality of the ordinary facade masking this really dangerous obsession.
Right.
But we have to remember at this point, the police are working with limited information.
Right.
They have these text messages, they have the abandoned cell phone, but they're still piecing together the puzzle.
Right.
It was the discovery of a really chilling audio recording that revealed the true depth of Caldwell's obsession and changed the entire trajectory of the investigation.
Okay, so let's talk about that recording.
Yeah.
It's the one that Rachel made when she called her mom.
Right, just hours before she disappeared.
And on the recording, Rachel whispers, "I think he's in my house. I can hear him breathing."
Chilling, right?
I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
It's hard to imagine the terror that she must have felt in that moment.
Right.
Knowing that someone was invading her space,
Right.
her sanctuary.
Right.
And that recording, it was a turning point for the investigators.
Yeah. How so?
Well, it corroborated the existence of the stalker,
Okay.
but it also really solidified Caldwell as the prime suspect.
Right.
And the content of the recording was just so chilling. It painted this really vivid picture of Rachel's final hours, you know,
Right.
living in fear under the constant watch of her stalker.
And when they searched his house, they
Yeah.
found photos, right?
They did.
A lot of them of Rachel.
A lot of them of Rachel taken without her knowledge.
Right. So this wasn't just like casual observation.
No, this was a calculated and methodical pattern of stalking, documenting her every move.
Right.
It's the kind of behavior that sends shivers down your spine.
Yeah.
It takes it beyond a simple infatuation,
Right.
It's this level of planning and premeditation that makes it truly sinister. Caldwell had meticulously infiltrated Rachel's life. He became a familiar face at her workplace.
Right.
All the while harboring this really disturbing obsession.
And sadly, Rachel's attempt to escape his clutches ultimately led to her demise.
Yes, it did.
You're saying her disappearance was a direct result of her trying to break free from him?
Exactly. She was trying to get away from him to escape his control.
Right.
And he couldn't let that happen.
Right.
He was arrested and charged with Rachel's kidnapping and murder.
Okay.
And the trial, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It revealed the chilling extent of his obsession.
Like what?
He'd been following her for months,
Wow.
charting her routines, recording her conversations.
Really?
It wasn't a crime of passion.
Right.
This was calculated.
Wow.
This was planned.
Yeah.
This was an act driven by an all-consuming obsession.
I mean, the fact that someone who seemed so ordinary could be capable of something so horrifying.
Right.
I mean, it makes you question how well you can ever truly know someone.
It really does. It's a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving.
Right.
And it highlights how important it is to recognize the signs of unhealthy obsession before they escalate into something dangerous.
Caldwell's conviction and his life sentence did bring a sense of justice, I think,
Yeah.
for Rachel and her family.
It did.
But it can never erase the pain
Of course not.
or the loss that they endured.
No amount of justice can truly heal that kind of wound.
Right. And I think it raises an important question for all of us.
Yeah.
Like, how can we as a society better recognize these warning signs
Right.
of obsession?
Yeah.
Not just to protect ourselves, but to support those
Yes.
who might be vulnerable to this kind of predatory behavior.
That's a conversation we need to be having.
And it's a conversation that we're going to be having
Yeah.
in part 2 of this deep dive.
We'll delve deeper into the psychology behind obsession.
We'll explore the warning signs, the red flags,
Yeah.
and the steps we can take to protect ourselves and others.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
So stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
All right, so we're back and we've kind of laid out like the disturbing details of Rachel's case. So now I think let's dive into like the psychology behind obsession a little bit.
Okay.
It's a really complex topic.
Yeah.
And, it might be surprising to some people to learn that it's not always about like a creepy figure lurking in the shadows,
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think a lot of times people think of obsession as something very overt and very dramatic.
Right.
But it can be much more subtle than that.
Yeah.
It can be almost insidious in the way it kind of creeps into someone's life.
Right.
It might start with admiration or even just like a simple infatuation.
Yeah.
But the line between healthy interest and unhealthy fixation, it can get blurry.
Yeah. So how do we recognize that shift?
Right.
Like, what are some of the things that distinguish a harmless crush from something that's maybe a little more sinister?
Well, one of the key things to look for is an intense focus
Yep.
on the object of their obsession.
Okay.
So the individual might want to know everything about this person,
Okay.
their routines, their habits, who they hang out with.
Right.
And this information gathering, it can become obsessive.
Right.
It's almost like a compulsion.
Okay.
They can't stop themselves.
Yeah. And, it goes beyond just like observation, too.
Absolutely.
We saw in Caldwell's case, he was taking pictures of Rachel, documenting her every move.
Yeah, that's a classic example of stalking behavior, which is a major red flag when it comes to obsession.
Right.
Stalking is about control.
Okay.
It's about feeding this insatiable need for information and proximity
Right.
to the person that they're fixated on.
So they might try to manipulate situations to be around them.
Exactly.
Right.
They might try to engineer encounters.
Right.
Or even go so far as to infiltrate the person's life, like Caldwell did at the diner.
Yeah, and that manipulation thing
Yeah.
really struck me about this case, Like, he was able to present himself as this harmless, regular customer
Right.
while secretly harboring all these, disturbing intentions.
Yeah, that's a common tactic for stalkers.
Okay.
They can be very good at blending in and
Yeah.
appearing non-threatening and unassuming.
Right.
But underneath that facade, there's this distorted reality
Right.
that's fueled by their fixation.
Yeah. It makes it tough for the victim
Oh, absolutely.
and those around them to recognize the danger.
Because they're being deceived.
Right.
They're being lulled into a false sense of security.
So what can we do?
Right.
I mean, how can we better protect ourselves and the people that we care about?
Yeah.
Are there certain warning signs that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, there are definitely some red flags to watch out for.
Okay.
But I think it's important to remember that context is really important.
Okay.
Not every instance of like persistent behavior
Right.
or intense interest necessarily means that someone's obsessed.
Right.
But you start to notice a pattern of unwanted attention.
Okay.
Persistent attempts at contact,
Yeah.
even after you've asked them to stop.
Right.
Or just this like overwhelming preoccupation with your life.
Okay.
Those are red flags that you really shouldn't ignore.
Because it's about trusting your gut.
It really is.
Right. Like if someone's attention is making you feel uncomfortable or unsafe,
Yeah,
that's a sign to take it seriously.
absolutely.
Right.
And don't underestimate the importance of documentation.
Okay.
Keep a record of any unwanted contact, any strange encounters,
Okay.
anything that just feels off.
Right.
This can be really helpful if you ever need to involve law enforcement.
So documentation, trusting your instincts, setting clear boundaries.
Yes, setting boundaries is crucial.
But what if it's like someone you know,
Right.
like a friend or an acquaintance?
Yeah, that can be really tricky.
Right. How do you address that without jeopardizing the relationship?
Well, I think open communication is key.
Okay.
Even though it could be incredibly difficult.
Right.
You need to express your discomfort with their behavior
Okay.
and set those clear boundaries. If they respect those boundaries, that's a good sign.
Right.
But if they continue to disregard your wishes, then it might be time to involve other people,
Wow.
friends, family, or even the authorities if necessary.
And if it's someone you don't know well,
Right?
like in Rachel's case where it started with those anonymous texts, what should you do?
Report it to the police.
Okay.
Immediately.
Right.
Don't hesitate.
Okay.
Your safety is a top priority.
Right.
And it's always better to err on the side of caution.
Right.
And remember, there are resources available to support victims of stalking and harassment.
Okay. Like what?
Well, there are organizations like the National Stalking Resource Center.
Okay.
They offer guidance and support.
Yeah, it's good to know that you're not alone if this is happening to you.
Exactly. There are people who understand what you're going through and they can help.
And I think it's important to remember, too, that obsession is a mental health issue.
It is. It often stems from deeper psychological problems.
Like what?
Personality disorders, attachment issues, unresolved trauma.
Okay.
These individuals, they often struggle with empathy,
Okay.
and they have a hard time setting healthy boundaries.
So it's not about excusing their behavior.
No, not at all.
Right.
But understanding the root cause can help us address the issue more effectively.
Right. So recognizing these warning signs early on is crucial.
It is absolutely crucial.
And early intervention can sometimes help redirect these behaviors before they escalate.
Yeah, if we can get people help before they hurt themselves or others,
Right.
that's the ultimate goal.
That's a powerful message. Early intervention, open communication, trusting your instincts.
Those are the keys
Yeah.
to combating this really chilling phenomenon.
And in our final segment,
Yes.
we're going to explore some of the wider implications of Rachel's case
Okay.
and talk about what we can all learn from it
Sounds good.
to help prevent future tragedies.
I'm looking forward to it.
Stay tuned. We're back. And, I think Rachel's story, as tragic as it is, it really shows us that, danger doesn't always come from, strangers in dark alleys or whatever.
No, it definitely doesn't.
Right.
It shatters that misconception that we're only vulnerable in certain places or situations.
Right.
This case, I think, really forces us to confront that reality.
Right.
That even seemingly ordinary people within our communities can have these really dark intentions.
Yeah, it's a chilling thought,
It is.
but it's an important one.
It is.
Rachel's case shows us that we need to be vigilant, not just for our own safety, but for the people around us too.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to be aware of those subtle signs.
Yeah,
Right. The red flags that might indicate that someone is struggling with these unhealthy obsessions.
Exactly. And we've all heard that phrase, right? See something, say something.
Yeah,
And I think it's never been more relevant.
I agree.
If you notice a friend, a family member, even just an acquaintance,
Anyone.
right? And they're exhibiting these obsessive behaviors,
Yeah.
like that unwanted contact, or they're preoccupied with someone, or they're trying to control their movements.
Yeah.
You can't just dismiss it.
No, you have to address it.
Right. You have to express your concern,
Exactly.
encourage them to get help.
Yeah, and be prepared to involve other people if necessary.
Right. And it's so easy to think, oh, it's none of my business.
Yeah.
I don't want to overreact.
Right.
But wouldn't you rather be safe than sorry?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It's better to err on the side of caution
Exactly.
than to potentially witness a tragedy unfold.
Right. And I think this also brings us to the importance of mental health awareness.
Yes.
You know, these obsessive behaviors often stem from some deeper psychological issues.
Yeah, things like personality disorders or unresolved trauma.
Right. And it's important to remember recognizing that root cause doesn't excuse the behavior.
No, it doesn't.
But it can help us find better solutions.
Absolutely.
Right? So addressing these underlying issues through therapy, through support systems,
Yeah.
that's crucial.
It's crucial for preventing further harm.
Right. And it's a collective responsibility.
It is.
You know, we all have to do our part to create a safer society by being vigilant,
Yes.
by advocating for mental health resources,
Exactly.
and supporting those who might be struggling.
I couldn't agree more. I think Rachel's story, while heartbreaking, can be a catalyst for change.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder that we have to be proactive,
Right.
compassionate, and really unwavering in our efforts to address these dangers.
Well said.
Thank you.
So this deep dive into Rachel's case has taken us on a journey
Yeah.
through some of the darkest corners of human behavior.
It has.
We uncovered the truth behind her disappearance. We explored the psychology of obsession.
Yeah.
And I think most importantly, we talked about how we can all play a part
Right.
in making a safer world.
Absolutely. Remember, knowledge is power.
Yes.
By understanding those warning signs, trusting our instincts, and taking those proactive steps,
Right.
we can really make a difference.
Well, thank you for joining us on this exploration.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, stay safe and be well. Please let me know if you need help with any other parts of the episode.